Recently, Injora reached out and they were like, hey, we've got this rainbow colored titanium LCG chassis we're coming out with, and it reminded us of your personality. You want to test it out for us? And I was like, you know what? I am a big old ray of sunshine. Send it. So they did. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chaz. This is CK4RC. Part of that story was true, but I'm not going to tell you which part. You get to decide for yourself. Anyway, so that's what we got here. We've got the new Injora LCG chassis. It's rainbow finished titanium. So we're going to crack this thing open. I have sourced some parts. I've got some Injora Pro Steer axles. I've got some Injora 36mm big bore oil shocks. I've got a FuryTech brushless system. I've got good old just Injora digital servo. And then this and some links. So let me get this thing put together and we'll check it out. Before I get it all assembled, let's see what comes in this box. Okay, actually have some instructions here. That's nice. We've got a nice looking set of high clearance suspension links. These are Bronco C10 length. So there's those. We've got a nice heavy skid plate. Some nice looking sliders here. And then it looks like we've got some body mounts and a battery strap in here with some hardware. That's one thing about Injora. They do not skimp on the hardware. So that's cool. And then here is the rainbow finished titanium LCG chassis. Now this thing, other than the flashy finish, it's not anything flashy in terms of wild comp style ability. So it does have a 9-degree angled skid plate on here, but as you can see, it's not, you know, the crazy 20-degree skid angle. It's fairly simple and basic and straightforward. And I think what they're going for with this is not for the hardcore comp builders. This is for somebody who has some stock RTRs that's looking to get better performance without going nuts. Well, that's exactly what this is here to do. So obviously it's not built with comping in mind, because that 9-degree skid angle, that will take you straight out of class 1 because you have to have a flat skid for that. And it's not wild enough to really compete with the crazy chassis that you might find in a class 2. So just emphasizing that's not really what they were going for with this. So I'm going to just build a solid, capable rig, and we're going to come back and check it out. And while I'm at it, I've got these rod end handles from, I think these are from RC Steve. So that way, whenever you are putting your rod ends on the threaded rods, you can just use these little tools right here to wind them all together and not have to sacrifice your grip. Now, I just happen to have a stock C10 sitting over here, and this will not be an apples to apples comparison because this new Injora chassis is not sitting on stock components, but it'll just give us a little bit to check out. So first of all, let's go ahead and see what the side hill looks like for a stock C10. And this does have a battery inside. So we are coming up on 40, 45, 46, 46 degrees on the side hill. Now, trying out the new Injora LCG chassis. Like I said, this is not an apples to apples comparison, but let's just see what happens. We're at 47, 48, it's definitely looking more stable. We're at 50, so right at 50, so almost 5 degrees more of side hill stability. Now, while this is not on stock components, I also didn't go all out with what I would normally do a build with. So we are looking at Proline trencher tires, but they're still mounted on the plastic beadlock wheels that they come on. I'm running the Injora digital servo. I'm pretty sure this is plastic geared, so it's not the same amount of brass I would normally run. And I should also point out that the weight distribution on this is not how it's designed. I got really impatient when I was putting things together, And for all the times I've said, don't over tighten your screws because they'll strip them out and you'll snap off the screw head, that's exactly what I did for the skid plate screws. So now I'm not able to attach the sliders, which is where I would ideally mount the electronics. So I messed up, but even with that mistake, this thing is still solid with there's a chassis brace back here, and then with the little carbon fiber trays and things like that, it still adds enough stability that this thing is still rock solid. So let's check out the incline of the stock truck. Climbing up to 45. This puts us at 50. 55. Okay. Starting to get a little wobbly up here. 59. 59 degrees on the incline. That's actually better than I thought it would be. And then the LCG chassis. Another reason why I wanted to compare these two specifically is because they're the same wheelbase. 55. 58, 59. We're passing 60. 61 degrees. So just a little bit better on the incline. 61, that's not bad at all. I feel pretty good about that. And then just for giggles, let's see what the stock articulation is. Oh wow, it is not good. The stock articulation, we are still not on the table. Stock articulation, we are right at, I'm going to call that an 8. I'm going to call it an 8 on the stock articulation. And then right here, and I'm using the 36 millimeter Injora big bore oil shocks. So again, these are not crazy big shocks or anything else. And this one's just slightly better. I'm going to say this one's right at 9. So just a little bit better than the stock articulation with the 36 millimeter big bore oil Injora shocks. Now I'm also going to say that you don't want crazy articulation for a capable crawler. It looks good for pictures, but that's not really what you want for a capable crawler. Now, let's get some run footage. Now let's start off with one of my personal favorite obstacles, the Wave from Crawler Tracks. And let's see how the Rainbow Titanium Chassis handles this obstacle. I'm getting a little bit of grind from the motor. I think maybe my mesh is just a little bit off. We're also seeing some cogging. There may be a little bit of binding going on as well. So I probably need to check the tightness of my wheel hexes. But it just glided right over that gap, and that's exactly what you want to see. So that handled really well. Let me check the tightness on these wheel nuts, not the wheel hexes, wheel nuts. Okay, so my front left wheel nut did appear to be just a little bit tight, so I think that that was the binding issue. And then the gear mesh seems pretty decent, so I'm wondering if the noise that I'm hearing is just the metal gears, but because I'm not running a body, it's a little bit louder than what I'm used to. So that is what I think is going on. Now we're going to run the Wave backwards because it handled it so well the first time. I really want to see how it does on the return trip. Oh goodness. Okay. Well, that little part right here was not cooperating very well at all. So let's see if I can get up here. A little bit of wheel speed will do. That's one way to do it. You can just look at that rear tire just floating over that gap. That is exactly what you want to see. That is exactly what you want to see from your truck. And again, this rear tire is floating again. That's perfect. Let's try this other line and see if we can get some of that floating on camera a little bit more. Yep, there we go. So that's what you want to see from your truck, because that will keep it from flopping around and upsetting itself and causing itself to roll over. So that is really good stability. And look how it's just staying nice and level and even. That is exactly what you want to see. That little rock right there, that is not ideal. That's what you want to avoid as much as possible. But when you're floating like that, depending on the terrain, that is what's going to happen. And next up is one of my other personal favorites, the classic frame bender. And yes, while you can run it as designed, and it is a nice little obstacle in its own right, will upset your center of balance and give you a little bit of a challenge. The way I like to use it is more of a side hill challenge. Probably need to give myself a little bit more space here towards the end. Let's see how the chassis handles this. There we go. Nice and planted. It doesn't even feel like it wants to tip over, which right there, that is pretty impressive. That is quite impressive. Nicely done. And let's go back on this side and see how this does. I don't know if I've ever even done this side. Don't want to rush through it. Just a nice steady throttle here. Whoa! That is an extreme angle. And it just did it. Wow. Okay, that is super impressive. Well, that is a nice new release from Injora with their new Rainbow Titanium low center of gravity chassis. Now let's get into the goods and bads, because there are always pros and cons. First, let's start with the goods. If you like the coloring, you can't ignore that rainbow color. That's kind of a selling point. That's why they call it the Rainbow Titanium LCG. So there's that. The other big thing for me is the value. Everything you get with this chassis for roughly, I think it's between $50 and $55. You get the titanium chassis rail, you get a brass skid plate, and you get the aluminum high clearance suspension links. So all of those parts for that price point is a really good deal, and the value is fantastic. The other big pro of this is the noticeable improvement that you get from the performance over the stock chassis. Yes, I did not drive a stock SCX24 in this video. I've done that countless other times, so I know what they run like. I don't need to do a head-to-head because we've been there. The SCX24 has been out forever. We know what they're good and what they're bad at. So the performance gains on this is incredible, and this is even with me messing up the build with not having the sliders on there. So those are the goods. Now let's get into the bads, because yes, there are some bads. So with this in mind, the 9-degree skid angle, that's a pro and a con. It's a pro because it's better than a flat skid angle, so you're going to get some improvement on there. But it is a con because if you are looking to build a comp rig, that 9-degree skid angle automatically kicks you out of the C1 class and puts you in C2, but it's not extreme enough to really compete with some of the competition-specific chassis that are already out there on the market. So that 9-degree skid angle is a nice improvement over stock, but if you're looking to do anything competitive with it, that is going to be a drawback. Now, having said that, I don't think Injora was going for a comp style chassis with this. They were looking for something that you could just take and bolt on. Even if I took a stock C10 or Bronco or whatever and I just slapped it on this chassis, this would give vast improvements right off the bat. So I don't think Injora was going for a competition style chassis with this. They were looking for the person that has had their SCX24, they drive it for fun, and they're ready to upgrade to be able to make it more capable for what they do around their house, on their trails, wherever they're taking their SCX24s. So with all of that said, Injora crushed it with this release. If you are in the market for an upgraded chassis over stock, this is a fantastic setup. I cannot argue with that. I won't even try to. If you're looking for a competition build, this chassis is not for you. So just know what you're getting when you order it, and you'll be more than happy with the outcome. So Injora, great job with this chassis. The entire kit is a great value. If you're curious, check it out. You're not going to regret it. That's going to do it for today. Hit that quadfecta for me before you go. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Keep doing RC stuff, and I'll see you next time. Big time thank you to my members and channel partners, and if you would like to join the ranks, click on that join button for exclusive content, never before seen videos, early access to videos, and other exclusive content, pictures, polls, and having an active voice in what comes next on the channel. So appreciate the support. Click on that join button, and thank you so much to the channel members.